You saw the fishing trip. You saw we caught a striper. Now we're back at home. We're making striper sticks. But first, we've got to clean this fish. A couple of the tools we've got are 8-inch Dexter fillet knife. I've got a cardboard box that I've got set up on the tailgate of my truck. Got a plastic bag under that so it's not, none of the juices end up leaking. Bucket of water and a rag. And I've got a couple of garbage bags for the finish or the end product, which will be more like the carcass, the rest of the fish. The fillets will of course go into a Ziploc, and we'll be cooking some fish sticks. So follow along. We're gonna cut this baby up. It's a decent little fillet. So I butchered the fillet just a little bit. The last fish that I filleted was almost 5 years ago. It was a 40-pound or upper 30-pound, lower 40-pound. I didn't have a scale yellowtail that I caught on a kayak. And that was, like I said, 5 years ago, and I did it on top of a trash can. Before that, I've filleted a lot of fish in my day, so it certainly came back pretty natural. Fillets turned out okay. Looking forward to turning these boys into fish sticks. That one's pretty nice. Good looking piece of fish. Very white, firm meat on the striper. Get about 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds out of that. Beautiful. Now all zipped up and good to go. It's gonna go in the fridge and we're gonna cook it tomorrow. One thing I can't stress enough about filleting at home, if you don't have a house on the water or you don't have a cleaning station at home, is to be prepared before you start, because as soon as you start, your hands are going to be nasty. Make sure you bring that bucket of water, a rag to make sure you can clean your hands off, the knife off. You got plenty of bags to dispose of all the trash or junk. And most importantly, make sure you have a cold beverage, especially if it's rounding out the end of the day. At this point it's 9:45. And I'm just going to wrap all this stuff up and throw it in the trash. And on Tuesday, they'll take the trash. And tomorrow, you'll get to see that fish turn into fish sticks. Stay tuned. So you saw the striper catch. Now it's time for the striper cook. We are frying up some striper bites. We're going to cut these fillets that we have here. About 1.5 pounds of fillets on a 21-inch striper. And the ingredients we need today are some all-purpose flour, we've got salt, we've got pepper, we've also got some garlic salt, which I'll use a little less normal salt, but then add the garlic salt, a little Old Bay for some spice in our lives, lemon, we're gonna have these 2 eggs, and then of course vegetable oil. We've got a deep pot that we use because we try not to make a total mess when we're cooking or frying. We've got this splatter guard and I've got a plate that's ready to go for the finished product. One of the most important parts, a cold beer. Today we're drinking the Bingo Orchard Portrait. That is a hazy IPA with HBC 586 and Amarillo hops. This is a pretty delicious IPA. But first on my checklist is to get these striper fillets cut into bites. So what I'm going to do is essentially chop them into about 1.5 inch wide little bites essentially. And then I'm going to get everything else prepared. So these bowls are essentially for the flour, all of the other ingredients here. And then this bowl will be, or this bowl's for eggs, this bowl's for the flour. And what we'll do is bring these bites from the egg to the flour and then into the pan. So like I mentioned, we're going to cut these guys into 1.5 inch pieces. This stuff is nice and white. These fillets are pretty thick. Turn into some nice little striper sticks, fish sticks if you will. This meat is pretty firm too, which I like for I like some firmer meat for frying fish. So making sure too there's no poor fillet job on my end, which always possible. Cut out some bones if you feel them. Check them before you throw them in the fryer, otherwise you're going to find them when you're eating. And if you should have watched the piece before this, we filleted that fish. I think I mentioned then, probably did, that was my first time filleting a fish in quite a while, so I hacked it up a little bit, but didn't put too much to waste, which was great. So there you have your striper bites, and it's probably 15 pieces or so. This is going to feed my wife and I. 1.5 pounds is probably good if you're buying fish from the store. 1.5 pounds between 2 people, plenty enough. Next steps, we're going to crack some eggs and then we're going to fill the flour bowl. So first off, we've got flour. What I usually like to use as a rule of thumb, start with about a 1/2 cup. Don't want to waste too much of it, but not a huge deal. So 1/2 cup of that. And then I'm not too scientific with everything else, but I like some salt, of course. I'm not putting a ton of regular salt in here because I'm doing the garlic salt as well. Some fresh pepper, a bit more of the garlic salt. Nice pour of garlic salt there. And then a little Old Bay seasoning, a little spice. So finished product there. Gonna crack 2 eggs. Gonna whisk those up. And then we're just gonna give this stuff a little move around. We want this spread around in the bowl, so you've got a surface essentially to, once you get the pieces of fish into the egg, you're going to bring it into this next spot. So you're going to go fish, you're going to go egg, and then the flour, both sides, and then it's going to go straight into the pot. If you've made it to this point, you have now cut your fish, you've got your eggs whisked, and you've got your flour ready to go. From here, we've got our vegetable oil, and I'm not, again, scientific with measurement on vegetable oil. What I like to do is, if my fish is, let's say, an inch thick, I'm going to put about a ½ inch of vegetable oil. So that's a pretty good measurement for my fish that I have. So that's probably a ½ inch to a little bit more. That's about a ½ inch. I don't have a ton of fish, so I'm not truly concerned with this oil evaporating. So usually I do about half of the thickness of the fish so that both sides cook when they're flipped. So now we are going to turn the oven on, or the cooktop on. Get it nice and hot. Get that oil nice and hot. And I've got some other stuff that needs to get turned on. We've got our air fryer over here as my sides. I've got some carrots and some potatoes and onions. Those guys are going to go in the air fryer for, I don't know why that's on Celsius, but air fryer 10 minutes or so. Here we go. One of the questions that's oftentimes not covered is, when is the oil ready for frying? What I like to do is get a little bit of water, and I drop the water into the oil, and if I get a little sizzle, it's ready to go. So we're going to do that. Look at that, it's ready to go. All right, you've got your station ready to rock. Give it a little whisk again, freshen up those eggs. And I'm going to probably do this in 2 batches, given the size of the fish and the amount of fish that I have. And like I mentioned, pretty straightforward. Give it a dip in the egg, both sides, make sure it's nice and covered. Move on to your next. Make sure that's covered. And I'm going to leave those in there until I'm ready to drop them into the pan. It's a little messy, but nothing a little water won't do to clean off. Nice and thick on the egg and thick on the flour. Alright, so you've got a nice little batch there that we can bring from the bowl into the pan. One of the things I didn't mention you'll want to have is for sure a pair of tongs, because you're not going to want to drop those in there by hand. So gently drop them into the pan. They're going to get a nice sizzle on them. Do this pretty quick so I can put the lid on. There we go. There's our first batch. Nice little splatter guard there. They're gonna sit for about 2-3 minutes. And we're gonna get started on the next batch. And we're gonna do the same process again. Drop them in the egg, hit them in the flour, give them a little roll, put it to the side. Alright. You can see there, bottoms could be a little more brown. I'll leave them for a minute or so more. Usually what I like to see is a little crisp brown on the bottoms when I turn them. And that normally takes about 3 minutes, but seems like maybe well, again, I'm not very scientific when it comes to measurements or time, and I'm not really looking at the clock, doing it by feel. So we're gonna let them get brown on the bottom first before we flip them. All right, there's a nice level of brown from my perspective. Got to be pretty careful. Definitely handle with care when you're working with oil. Keep your face back for sure. Boom, give the other side a little less time. Alright, other side has been on there for about 2 minutes. And if you were ready and prepared like I suggested, you will have a plate with a paper towel ready to go to soak up that oil. Let these guys cool down. You got yourself a couple of fish sticks there. Check them out. That's right, fish sticks. And on to our next batch. So normally I would recommend, if you've got more than half a pound or so, or more than 2 pounds, that you're going to want to swap out the oil. But with this small amount of fish, you can do probably 2 batches, 3 batches maybe on the same oil. The issue turns into it getting dirty, then it not getting hot enough. Heat won't distribute properly. So if you're feeding, say, 3 to 4 people, you're good with a single batch of oil. Otherwise, you're going to want to swap out that oil. So while those are on one side, hopefully, well, while you're frying, hopefully you had your sides cooking. For me, like I mentioned, we've got some carrots in the air fryer. Nice little veggie there. And we've got some potatoes and onions over here. Got that second batch. Looking pretty good. Give them a little flip again. Other side for about 2 minutes. Last batch is looking good. Gonna add it to that plate with another layer of paper towel. Suck up that oil. And there you go. Fresh fish sticks. Make sure you always turn the burner off. There we go. A finished product. Got 2 layers here. Got that first batch and the second batch. One thing I always recommend, definitely have some lemon. Cut them into quarters. Each plate's getting 2. Gonna throw some of these guys on each plate. Nice start there. Come back for more when we need it. Nice. There you go. That is how you fry fish sticks, or how you make some striper sticks. As a little add-on, my wife loves this truff sauce. This is the hotter version. And for me, the beloved Chick-fil-A sauce. Chick-fil-A sauce goes on everything. There's no exception with fish sticks. Give it a try and enjoy. And if you tried this recipe, make sure you let us know in the comments how you liked it. This is not just a striper specific fried fish recipe. You can make this with, I recommend, any whitefish, flounder, halibut, any haddock or things you can get at a local supermarket. But this is my favorite way to make fish. And tune back in for more potentially fish recipes. Maybe this is the first fish I've harvested in 4 years. So if you like the content that we just shot and shared, let us know, because we'll do more of it if that's the case. If you haven't already, like this video and please consider subscribing to the channel. Reminder, I'm Kyle with The Current, and you're tuned in. Thanks for watching.